Hello, we're here today to talk about documentation in FSRP services. My name is Wendy Woodhouse, and I do some training for our agency and also do supervision.
And I am Katie Hennigan, a regional director here at Families First, so welcome.
And I am Angie Freiberger, and I am a regional director in Cedar Rapids.
So I'll start off. Have you ever been to the dentist, sat down in the chair, and the dentist comes in and says, today I think I'm going to pull your incisor. And you say, what? Pull my incisor? The dentist hasn't done anything other than say what he's going to do. Whenever you work with a professional, the professional does an assessment. The professional just doesn't come in and say, it's Wednesday, I'm going to pull your incisor. And so what I'm going to talk about is our assessment. And it's a mouthful. It's called the North Carolina Family Assessment Scale, General Services, and Reunification. So I'm just going to call it the NCFS. The NCFS has a history. And what happened was it first started out as a crisis tool, a crisis assessment tool. And it looked at the environment in a family. It looked at parental protective capacities, at family interactions, at safety, and at child well-being, looking at the physical health and looking at the mental health for individuals. And then it was realized that children leave the home and return, and there really wasn't good assessment information on reunification. So then it added the R to that, which was reunification. And those two issues were ambivalence from both the person that was caring for the child, the caregiver, and the child. And then we backed up and said, we need reunification, we need the general information, but certainly the cases that we serve aren't just crisis intervention. And so the G for general, that information came up, and that covers community life, social life, self-sufficiency, and then family health. So what we have right now that we provide as an assessment tool for families is a full range, evidence-based assessment tool. And it really helps us look at a family's strengths, a family's needs, a family's resources, and then it also gives us a chance to look full-blown of what's going on in this family, and you can then help the family decide what it is they might want to work on. So our assessment is our assessment. We add this assessment, the NCFS, to the information that we receive from the Department of Human Services, both the child protective worker who does the child abuse assessment, and then the care coordinator. And we come up with information that really is helpful to the family for a roadmap. So we are not pulling out incisors because today is Wednesday. What we're doing is we're saying, this is all your information. Let's look at the strengths that you have. Let's take from those strengths and work on the things that are areas of need. So let me tell you a little bit about the benefits of this tool. It only takes about 30 minutes to complete once you've done the first tool and if you're familiar with it. So it's pretty efficient. It is, I said evidence-based, but it has also inter-rater reliability. So that means that if the individual if the care coordinator does the actual beginning assessment, then it is reliable all the way through to the end. If someone else picks up the case, then it's reliable from when they've picked up the case and done the assessment to the end. So that's a wonderful, wonderful piece of information. It doesn't pen people in because the people that anybody, but particularly the people that we work with, have complicated lives. And so the NCFIS provides a system where what you do is you have a scale of +2 to -3. And then you have intermediate steps in between that. So as long as the same person is doing the assessment, they have some wiggle room to make some judgments, and that still makes it reliable. I want to share something that I think is really important for you to know. Because this is evidence-based and because it's been around for a number of years, and because it's used by many, many child welfare agencies, because it's suited just for child welfare, we've been able to gather a lot of information. And that information tells us that when there's a situation of an in-home family at the time of closure, if there is a decrease in child well-being at that time of closure, that would indicate that the child, a high probability that they'll be placed out of the home later on. So that gives us a lot of information to be able to say, is this a time to close this case? Is this the right situation? There's another situation too, that if you look at a child returning home reunification, and if there are moderate or serious problems in any of those 10 areas I mentioned at the beginning, and they call them domains, we call them areas sometimes. If there are any issues that are moderate or serious in any of those domains, there's a high probability of out-of-home placement. So that gives you a rule of measure to be able to look at the people you're serving. The other thing that I think is really interesting to consider is that, you know, when we look at safety, one of the issues with safety is parental protective capacities. And we need to know that at least 1 in 5 of every families that we serve and that we assess are in a situation where even when the case closes, they'll need more assistance with parental protective capacities. And that's why I think we're so lucky at Families First that we really look at planning for the family after the case closes. So I want to talk with you just a little bit about the tools that you have. One thing that you have is you have the definitions of how you do the scale, and you have that with your documents. Another thing that you have is the information I shared with you, which is called the key points. Next, you have a rating tool, a scoring tool, so that you can put down your information of how you've rated that person. And then finally, you have a long-term scoring tool that gives the history. So what ends up happening is you sit down with a family and you explain to them what this tool is. You explain that this is your tool, you want their input, but this is information that you have to fill out. So it's not a situation where you would sit and discuss, do you think this is a number 2 on this? I think this is a number 1. It goes according to whoever is doing the tool, because the reliability would be off if you didn't do that. Then you complete the information and you share it with the family, and you share it with the people that pay us, the Department of Human Services. And then as cases go on, every month you take a look at the progress or the lack of progress that's being made, and you look at what has changed. Now, because we're so lucky, to be able to take everything we have and put it together. Both Katie and Angie are going to be talking about other factors that help us put all the information that we need into a document. But this is our basic tool. So what ends up happening is this gives us really a beginning of a roadmap to see what we need to have for a case to close, and the case to close in a way that produces safety for the child. One major thing that I want to say is 0 would be what they call baseline on this tool. And 0 might not necessarily be what I would say is baseline functioning. It's what the community says. So if a family lives in a part of town where there's a lot of crime, families aren't getting picked up because they live in that area, and the police aren't saying, well, your children aren't safe because they're in this area. So what you have to look at is if you say that there's a deficit, if you say that there's a need, you have to look at where does the community stand on this. So if someone lives in a part of town that really has some criminal activity, you can't say that that's a negative because of that, because people are allowed to live in that part of town. You could say it was a negative if the parent weren't supervising their child. So anyway, 0 is what the community, what would be considered something that would not have to be assessed by the Department of Human Services. I had mentioned, I just went by this very quickly, that this looks at strengths. And I'll speak for myself, but I think there are many other people. When I see a case, what I want to do is jump in and help the family work on areas that are of need. And that's not how life works. What we all do is we know we have areas of need, but we try to use our strengths to be able to pull those areas up. So if we don't do a balance, don't look at strengths and needs, what ends up happening is we miss the half of the piece that really is the effective half for people. So to summarize with the NCFIS G+R, we have got a tool that is fantastic. We have got a tool that we use monthly that charts progress or lack of progress. We have a tool that's evidence-based. We have a tool that is specifically for child welfare, and we have a tool that is user-friendly. So we think we've got the world. We think we're very lucky. Now Katie's going to share service plan information with you.
Well, thank you, Wendy. So as Wendy just explained to us and did a fantastic job as walking us through the NCFIS and giving us a tool that will help us gather a bunch of information from the family in the first 30 days and they're ongoing, you're probably wondering, now what do we do with this information? And where do I put all this information? And as Rick and I mentioned earlier in the segment of child welfare, we also talked about there could possibly, in the first 30 days of your case, be a family team meeting. And so you would have gathered information from that as well. And Wendy talked about a roadmap. And at Families First, one of the things we always ensure with a family is that we have one roadmap. As you as yourself, probably as Wendy talked about when you go to the dentist and they kind of have a plan that you were surprised by, well, we want to ensure there's one plan. Because when you go to the dentist, you don't want to have 5 to 10 different plans and dentists and personal hygienists doing much different things to you. You want one roadmap and one, I would say, active plan to get you through the services that you're going to receive and be in agreement with that. So the service plan is the document that we put all that information that we received to this point into one roadmap. And so if you refer to the service plan and what your interventions and strategies are as a care coordinator, or what we're going to offer this family to help them reach safe case closure, as well as resources and referrals that we need to make, that if there's other services that we do not provide, this is the area that we will mention that, so that way we can assist this family in other areas as well, such as, for example, maybe substance abuse. We would put in there a substance abuse agency that can help them with that issue. And so as you go through and enter in this section, Rick mentioned previously that on the associate page, we have some examples. And so if you go to the associate page, you will see I would say probably a really thorough template of a bunch of goals and objectives and service interventions already developed under many of the reason referrals that we get. So for example, mental health, substance abuse, we even included some on family interaction and whatnot. So if you go to that helpful tool, there's actually the answers there for you already. And so you'll go to that and see that does any of these goals in that tool fit this family? And if you need to tweak them a little bit, you certainly can do so. But you will enter in those goals, objectives, and service interventions. And we really want to highlight service interventions and strategies as that is your role as a care coordinator. So it's really an opportunity to brag on yourself about what you're going to offer to this family to help them address that underlying need and concern that led them to the involvement of the Department of Human Services. So you'll go through and create that roadmap, and really it's just a plan that you would have also maybe particularly developed in the family team meeting of how to proceed forward. And then you get to the end of the service plan, when you have your goals and everything already entered in your referrals and your resources, and you're thinking, okay, great, we're good to go. One thing at Families First that we want to ensure that happens, and we mentioned this before when Rick and I were talking about that first session, is making sure that you're very transparent with the family. Before I hand it over to Angie, again, I just want to highlight for you the service plan. Again, it's just the treatment plan for the family. It's the roadmap of services that you will offer the family and interventions as a care coordinator. What Angie's going to cover for us is the case progress report, which would be off of this service plan and is really, as Wendy mentioned before, an update also as well to the NCFIS. And so our next step then would be the 30-day progress report.
Hello, I'm going to walk you through our most updated service plan and 30-day progress report. Our main goal of this report is for everyone who picks it up, anyone from a judge to a DHS worker to a regional director, to assess and understand where the family is at any given point. Each month, this report is updated with the new contact sections and your overall assessment of the report. Copying and pasting from month to month is not acceptable. We do expect that you refresh your report every month with new information. Remember, the report is written where the child resides. If the child is in foster care or relative care, then you will note that within your contact sections. However, the majority of the report will be written based upon where the child is returning to. Also, don't forget the non-custodial or out-of-home parent. This particular individual should be noted in the report as to how you contacted them. For example, if our referral face sheet indicates you need to see this person via face-to-face or phone or by letter, that should be noted within your 30-day report. This report is due every 30 days. You will find on your initial 3055 the start date of services. Every 30 days from that date is when your report will be due. Next, I would like you to turn to page 2 of your document template. This is where you will document all the events within the month that occurred with the family. So for example, a court hearing, a family team meeting, your weekly or bi-weekly or even monthly sessions with the family will all be noted within this section. You will see it's important to list the participants and their full names, including yourself. Then you document the time spent during the contact. Remember, it's also the times you'll be entering on your timesheet when you do your billing at the end of the month. Then if you look at the next section, which is Summary of Service Provision, we give you some guidelines on how we would like this section to look. It is important as a reader, we get a few details about your interactions with each participant. For example, if there is a baby who is non-communicative, you would document that you observed the baby sleeping in the crib and his or her chest was rising or falling. Mom reported the baby had been sleeping for 1 hour. This is just an example of how you can ensure we understand who was present. We also expect that a tour of the home is completed with the family to see where the child sleeps and to ensure there are no obvious safety factors present. If this doesn't occur each session, then at minimum, you should be walking through the home each month. The next section, we are looking for what strategy or intervention you used during the time spent with the family. In addition, describe any risk factors present, and ultimately, if you deem the children safe. If you turn to page 3, you will see the next section is regarding your monthly activities. Remember, if you put a court hearing or a family team meeting in this section, there must be a contact note to reflect this. Moving down the page, the next section is family functioning domain updates, which is an area we summarize through our NCFIS G+R scoring. You will score each section and write a few sentences as to why you scored the section that way. These scores should reflect the progress you document within the contact sections. The final section of the document on page 4 is your overall assessment of the safety constructs. This is where you'll highlight the activities you provided during this reporting period. Crisis planning is a crucial piece of work that needs to be documented in this section. If you created a crisis plan with the family, state what that plan entails. If the family used the crisis plan, note that in this section. Then you will narrate your professional, factual opinion on the overall progress of the case. What did you observe to support this? This information is critical oftentimes during court hearings or at family team meetings. We encourage you to use behavioral specific language that is clear and concise. This dialogue creates less confusion for families and professionals when decisions need to be made. Try to always have facts and/or direct observations to support your professional opinion. Finally, you and your supervisor will sign this report and send it in to your regional mailbox on the 30th or 31st day, depending on when you make your last contact during that reporting period. Following this video, you will be having a discussion with your supervisor on how to gain parent signatures. Our practice is that you will take a copy of your finished report and review it with the family, gain their signature, and then document your actions within the next 30-day report. We appreciate your time and attention to this report as you begin your journey with us at Families First. We are excited to have you on board. If you have any additional questions about how to write this report, please talk with your supervisor. Thank you.
So this concludes our documentation training portion. We hope you have a baseline understanding of the NCFIS G+R service plan and the 30-day progress report. We encourage you to go back to the Associates page and review each of these documents. You will be having more direct contact with your supervisor in regards to each of these documents with more case-specific information. Thank you for your time and attention today. Have a good day.